I just asked you a quick question. How do I okay. So chat and where chat options. Where's that chat options? Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, host and co-host. Okay, perfect. Uh oh, everyone and anyone directly. Oh, okay. Just co-host and co-host would be the option, right? Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you later then. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna disable the overall chats in like a minute. So if you guys wanna just quickly say hello to everyone, use the opportunity to do that now. We will focus on kind of doing some end games today, and some of the more instructive end game mistakes that I've recently been seeing from a lot of people. And hopefully they will be instructive for you guys to see as well. All right, so okay, without further ado, I will now disable the chat. Now you'll be able to only talk to me directly. Okay, so we're gonna start off with this game between Martirosyan and Tabata Bay. Now, a little bit of context in this game. This game was played in the World Cup in 2021, and White, Martirosyan, won the first game with Black. So all he needed to do was make a draw in the second game, and he gets through into the next round. And this is pretty much, and they're both strong GMs. They're both stronger than me, at least by FIDE rating. So this is slightly unpleasant for White, but obviously White should probably draw without too much difficulties. It's kind of a fortressy position. We've had like some lessons on fortresses before. But yeah, anyway, Black is trying, for many moves. Eventually tried d4, but White ignores it, of course, because if you take, then I take back on d4, and Black is making progress, so just wait. And it turns out, Black really cannot do anything, right? Black cannot do anything, so Black just keeps waiting, and eventually he tried this move knight f3. Now here, something really insane happens. White played knight takes f3. G takes f3, king d2, d3. And this endgame, well, it turned, White probably thought it's a pretty easy draw because both sides have protected passed pawns. And it looks like it should be a draw. It looks like neither king could get in. But the problem is Black's pawn is more advanced. And there's going to be problems. King h3, king e1, king g2. And turns out this position is winning for Black. Because in the end of everything, both sides will queen, right? But then both sides will queen, but in the end, there's queen g2. White resigned, a couple of moves earlier when he saw the writing on the wall. But yeah, this position all of a sudden ends up being lost for White. So White lost in this really improbable way. And given how in this position, all White needed to do really is just to wait, right? King d1 is fine, knight c4 is fine, knight f1 is fine, almost any move is fine, right? It's just a dead draw. Like, in fact, I would expect any of you pretty much to be able to draw this with White against me, right? As long as you don't do something, silly like that. Knight takes f3, but yet White found like the only way to lose the game, pretty much, more or less. So now, an interesting psychological question here. Why would White, being such a strong player, like just lose a game like that, right? Like make such a mistake, like something completely uncalled for, right? Who can try to give some logical explanation? Yeah, maybe not one to allow d3, but d3 really you just wait, king d1. There's no progress anyway, right? So I think there's like a more of a psychological reason to it. Why would do this? Because he's already very tired and he doesn't want to just continue to wait. Okay, yeah, possibly, yes. Psychologically scared, tired, yeah. So basically, Yes, passive. I think it's mainly just nerves, right? Just wanting to get the game over with, right? Feeling the stress, like almost like or achieving the goal, right? And just having this stress. And he knows that if he plays knight c4 or whatever, black will play like 40 more moves, then push d3, then it's going to be another 50 moves. And, he doesn't want to sit there for another like hour or something, dreading this situation and being nervous, right? He just wants to get it over with, finally get rid of this game, right? A lot of you had this feeling like at some point the game is going on, dragging so long. And I've had this before, right? I just wanted to get the game over with, just get the game over with. But that's like always a bad mentality in chess to like want to get the game over, right? And so you have to always think about fighting till the end and embracing that struggle of being slightly in an unpleasant position. But if you see that it's a draw, if opponent really has no breakthrough, if it's just a fortress, just keep it, right? It's okay to sit there for 30 more minutes, 1 more hour, whatever it is. The key is the more important thing is to not let's say the more important part is to make sure you don't give your opponent chances to win, right? It's not important like how quickly you make the draw, right? The more important part is to avoid giving your opponent chances to actually beat you, right? So, and white really wanted to force that draw, right? Really wanted to force that draw, wanted to end the game right here. And sometimes when you have that bad psychological mindset, you start really thinking, okay, knight takes f3, you start willing that line to work. It's like you don't look at it objectively anymore. You start like willing that line to work. And that's where it gets very dangerous, right? That this is once you have that mentality, you have to be very careful to control that, because it's very easy to make such a mistake. Now, why did I remember this game? Well, because I saw something very similar just now happen in Alice Lee against Arena Crush. Now, this game, yes, Martirosyan Tabatabe, yes. Now, Alice Lee against Arena Crush, that was in their second match in that American Cup that they just played. And well, before we get to an end game, there were a couple of interesting moments in the middle game that I do want to share with you guys. So Alice was well prepared because this was their second game in that line. Alice beat Arena, in the second game of the classical portion to tie the match 1-1 in the second match. And basically, but Alice got a bad position, but still won. And then this time she improved. Isn't this opening kind of miserable? Well, it depends. I think it's actually better than its reputation. But I think Arena slightly misplayed it, and okay, I mean, she was a bit worse at some point. The first game she got a great position. I have a question. Why do people play total dead force openings like QGD that are not good tries for an advantage? I mean, well, I mean, because with black you're normally trying to equalize, right? So again, it depends on the tournament situation, depends on the style of the player, right? I mean, it's just like with white, well, I mean, still, I mean, if you're, let's say, a lower rated against a higher rated, maybe like they're just a solid player and they're hoping the opponent doesn't know all the details, and then they can like play for a small plus, right? Everyone has their own, reasons, right? I mean, sometimes I can also play different, like in different opponents, right? If I'm playing a very aggressive player, I might just play something very solid, right? Let them, do something, But if I'm playing someone who is not good against initiative, then I might, go after them a bit more, right? So, it depends on really, I think it's stylistically, right? So anyway, they played this, and now black played c5. So here white had an opportunity to get an advantage. So Alice missed it. Now this was a 10+5 game. This was a rapid playoff. And so, we'll try to figure out what should white do. And by the way, regarding the 1-second game, we'll get to that game later. That was in the classical portion in their first match in that tournament. But for now, let's look at this example, because this is more relevant to the Tabat debate, right? So I want to kind of go in order. So white to play, what should we do with white? The question. So if we go queen d1 to go queen, well, actually queen d1 has a more powerful threat. We're threatening rook takes h7. But then black will probably play h6, right? Black can try to defend that. White to play, yes, white to play. Black just played c5, as you could see. So that means it's white to play now. So queen d1, that's similar to what Alice played. But after queen d1, you can go h6, right? And that's not so bad. All right, so let's see here. Yes, I think Austin has gotten it. So let's call on Austin 1 second. All right.
The rook on h4 can't get back, so we have to play bishop e6, so we can take the e4 pawn. And after c takes d4, rook e4, then I guess maybe knight c5 or something, but we can take the d pawn if he does that. So he can also take the e3 pawn, I guess, but then we'll just take it, and I guess we can force a trade of queens, right?
Yeah, wait, what's happening here? Yeah, I think here the knight is just pinned up. Wait, can I go queen d4 or something?
I thought there was queen b6 or queen c5 maybe, but maybe then white can just play king h. No, then there's knight f2.
King f1 maybe, but then you can go queen d4. Okay, let's just I don't want to say anything stupid, so let me just turn on the engines to make sure I don't. Queen d4. Okay, so it's queen d4, king f. You just go queen takes d3, obviously. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, queen d3 or king f1 is also winning, but yeah. Yeah, so and if queen here, anywhere else, then you go king f1, right? Anyway, yeah, so white is winning in that line. Okay, I mean black can defend a little bit better, but yeah, bishop e6 is the best idea, right? The only chance for a big advantage. But instead, white played d takes c5, queen takes c5, queen e2. So trying to go rook h7, queen h5, cheap little trick, but of course Arena sees it, plays h6. And now, Alice starts to get a bit outplayed, but here black kind of missed a stronger idea here. Like here, rook c7 gives a big advantage for black. Even stronger move is rook ae8. By the way, Arena did cover this game this moment briefly in her recent YouTube videos. So, in case you're interested, she has her own. But okay, yeah. So rook ae8 is threatening 96. Rook d8 was slightly inaccurate because after this, white was able to weasel into this endgame, because the difference is now if you go queen c7, I cannot take with the knight, unlike with the rook on e8, because she does have a new YouTube channel. It's like started very recently. So if you're ever interested, you can check it out. She has good content there, so very instructive. But yeah, anyway, it's just since we're talking about the game, this game, this fragment was in her in one of her videos. That's why I don't want to go over it too deeply. But anyway, so in the game they got into this end game, and and they were both kind of low on time. But Arena had a little bit less time. Alice had about a minute around here, and Arena had like 10 seconds, but they had 5-second increment, so that's more than enough time. King f1 stopping rook e2, and now rook c2. Now this end game, okay, it's like obviously a draw, right? Rook n3 against rook n3, even with like just a 5-second increment, right? Just a draw. However, here in this position, Alice played this move. Okay, I mean, first of all, you can do almost anything, right? You can go h4, g3. You can also just play rook a5, h4, h3, right? There's like many things you can do. You can just wait. And obviously, black cannot make any progress, any serious progress. But instead of that, Alice just thought, okay, well, let's just, try to force a draw, e4, e5, boom, boom, and just get it over with, right? Trade the weakness. and just get a draw. The only problem is now black has this nasty idea, rook c4, rook f4. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yes, very good. So e5, rook f4, and then rook f5. Yes, and black is just completely winning. Yeah. Then next, sorry, what I mean, I'm not. No, of course, black is not completely winning, but suddenly, what I meant to say is white is not like easily drawing anymore, right? Suddenly, white has to work a little bit harder for it. Plus, there's like this little bit of a tilt, right? You think you have a very easy draw, and suddenly, boom, you have to work a little bit. So my point is, why this kind of mistake? Well, again, it's the same thing as that previous game, right? Not wanting to just like endure a little bit of like waiting around and suffering, right? Just wanting to force something immediate, right? And that could sometimes lead to trouble. And so that was yet another example. And so actually Alice ended up losing this game because after e4, rook c4, e5, rook f4, king g1, rook f5, black is threatening this. So, okay, white played rook b6 so that there's no fe, right? So now rook e5. Of course, this is still a draw. Like, I think the simplest is to go h3 and still kind of wait. But Alice played this, and now king f2 is not the best move because after this, black found a very strong move h3, which, kind of weakens h2. And after takes rook h5, rook h3, does g3, h4 setup work here too? Yes, probably, yes. But this is already asking for trouble because here, as you could see, h2 is rather weak, right? So this is not really what you want. This is still a draw, but a little bit harder to defend. And eventually, Alice cracked completely by playing h4, creating this weakness. This is a draw, but a little bit already unpleasant to defend. But after h4, it's already lost. Rook c3, rook h3 with a very nice idea. And that was it. And white lost this game. So again, just out of nowhere, right? And so again, it's the same kind of problem, right? It's like wanting to force things, getting the game over with, right? Now, a little bit more on that. H5 would have been a funny last attempt, after rook c3. Oh yeah, well, yes, that's true. If king h5, then, but of course black has rook c4, right? And then king h5, so doesn't help. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, so let's see what we have. Oops. All right, so this was like my last class. I have some material. Okay, so next game I want to show is the game, of James Nguyen. Sudarshan against James Nguyen from Charlotte, recent Charlotte Norm event. The game itself wasn't all that exciting. But black was actually the one pressing for most of the game, but then okay. They reached this very drawn endgame. Okay, which I guess here only white can win. And okay, here black played rook g2, king f5. All right, so here, okay, I mean, in this position, look, you can pretty much draw in almost every way possible, right? You can just literally wait, right? You can go king h8, rook g8. That's one plan, just to get to passive defense, because against the h or g pawn, a b pawn, the passive defense just works, because at some point you can't make progress. How do you screw this up? Well, you'll see. You'll see. Like I saw some amazing things recently in endgames, which is why I thought it's better to do an endgame class, because like I couldn't believe like the things I was seeing. So it goes to show like it's hopefully you guys can learn from like other people's mistakes. Yeah, so another option is just to play rook there, right? King h8, and again, king is cut off again, very easy draw, right? So pretty much almost anything draws, right? Okay, black played this, whatever, fine. h5. So okay, now there's a trick. If rook takes h5, king g6. Okay, so James saw it. Now he played rook g2. Okay, so I thought, okay, like black will make the draw here. Okay, but then king takes e5. Did know that Nico chasing the autofiller. Yeah, that happened. Well, actually, not just him. I won a Philidor position against the 2450 from Russia. Because he also did something he had the defense, but then he, tried to force the draw some other way. And, he lost the defense, and then it was still a draw, but, he lost, right? Again, people do very strange things sometimes. Okay, so now in this position, probably what happened was, okay, so black avoided the trap, but now look what happened. Rook g2, king takes e5, rook g5, king f6, rook takes h5, king g6, 1-0. Okay, so I was like shocked. I was like, why? Like, I didn't get this. This makes no sense, especially since black literally saw this idea one move up prior, right? Now, who can explain why would somebody who is a master, like he's a strong master, James Gwen, right? Very strong player. How can, player this good make such a mistake? Like, what could be the some psychological reasons behind it? Like, things don't happen by accident usually, right? Like, why would this okay, maybe wanted to get it over with, right? But there's another interesting reason to this. Like, especially, this concept of like seeing an idea earlier and then like missing it the very next move. There's an interesting thing, psychological reason behind that too. He let the guard down because he thought it was a simple draw. Yes, I definitely agree. But I think that's also like sometimes what happens is when you know it's a dead draw, you're just like, hey, it's just a draw. Like, why we're still playing? And then you also, to make matters worse, you avoid the last trick. And you say, okay, well, now it's definitely a draw. I even avoided the last trick. Like, what is there to play for? It's just a draw. And so you stop thinking. The brain just stops thinking. It just shuts down. It's just like, whatever. I mean, anything I'll do will draw. And like you start, envisioning things. Right. So my point is that, you have to be very, very careful, because sometimes in chess, you might see a certain tactical idea early on, and you think once you stop it, you're out of the woods. No, you're not out of the woods. That's like a very common trap we as humans could fall for. Very common trap. It can work in more complex tactical positions, right? Like you calculate a tactic, you calculate it doesn't work, but it might work next move because something in the position changes, right? Or you might move a piece and now it works, right? So my point is, this is a very common kind of mistake, right? Here, okay, it happened in a very extreme way, but my point is you have to always be alert. Like, it's like any position is lost. Like if a master can lose this position, then like any position could be lost if you really have a lapse in concentration, right? So this example shows how it's important to never have a lapse in concentration. Until the score sheets are signed, you have to stay vigilant and stay focused and be very careful. All right, so let's keep going. Now this game was let's see what this was. Okay, so let me just keep going. Okay, the next game I want to show is the game, the 1 second game, as somebody mentioned. This was where Irina and Alice played a classical game in their first match. In this context, first game was a draw, so Alice is playing white this game. So, if anyone wins, they win the match, and if it's a draw, it's going to be a tiebreak. So let's see what happened. Now in this game, black kind of got a comfortable position out of the opening relatively quickly, and black's like putting their pieces on very good squares. White couldn't exactly find the best plan. Black's like very harmonious here, and little by little, black is starting to outplay white here. King h8 is important to try to stop any kind of f5. e4, e5 is also maybe not the best plan, and now this bishop on c6 is quite good. It's unopposed. Why did black not play b6? I mean, he could have probably, but she could have probably, but I think the way black played in the middle game is completely fine. There are probably many ways you could have played. Bishop b3, bishop d5, rook d1, and now came an interesting moment. And this moment also Irina covers in her YouTube channel, by the way, and like in the videos called like things I learned from the American Cup. Now in this position, black played a very natural idea, but black has a much stronger idea. So let's see if you guys could try to find the best plan for black. Try to get the most out of the position. Yeah, don't just give me one move though, right? I mean, you have to try to actually explain, give some, follow-up, not just one move. Yeah, this is not a one move solution. Looks like Eric Blue has gotten it. So, oh, sorry, what did I do? Okay. Eric, ah, Eric Blue. Where's Eric Blue? Oh, 1 second. Oh, Eric, go on.
So we push c4 to lock the queen side, and if bishop c2, then g5, and we can attack the king side.
And what happens at G3? Any thoughts here?
Well, maybe we could go like rook g8, or we could try g4, h5, h4.
Yeah, this is better because also, yeah, this is better even because then you threaten you stop bishop d1, bishop f3, and now this bishop on d5 is unopposed. And as you could see, yeah, black will probably break through on the king side, and this is like a dominating position. Like black is much better. It's like -2. So c4 is a very powerful idea, but if you see the follow-up of playing on the queen side. So I also saw a suggestion of rook c6, rook b6, but then I think that maybe I can go c4, d5 and try to get counterplay in that case. So I'm not sure if that will work out as well. In the game, black just played this, tried to go for this a pleasant endgame. But now Alice actually was playing really heroic. Now you might think that based on that one game that Alice is a weaker endgame player, but actually, as you'll see in this endgame, she was defending heroically. Like, because in this position, Alice had something like a couple of minutes left, and Irina had something like 20-something minutes left. Plus, Irina has a much more pleasant endgame to play, and objectively slightly better. But Alice was defending really well, starting with king g1, king g8, rook b1. This is all good. Okay, but this, as you can say, is natural. c4, g5, g3, king there. This is all makes sense. King g3, king h5. Yeah, and now here white started defending really well, like a genius. Next like 4 or 5 moves. So let's start with this position. How do you think white should continue? Because this looks very unpleasant to play. But having said that, it's Alice was up to the task. At least with low time in this endgame. All right, Arian, go ahead.
So here I was thinking of playing h3.
You mean a4, right? Yeah, you meant a4.
Oh yeah,
A4. Yeah, and if king g6, king h4. Yes. Now, king g6, of course, is not the best attempt for black, but yeah, a4 is the correct first idea. Now, there's an important no, a5 will not work so well because for black, because then that position is like, white gets a lot of counterplay here with the e pawn. But yeah, so a4, black played rook c7, which makes the most sense, right? He wants to play rook d7, rook d3, and start penetrating. All right, so here white needs to continue staying vigilant and playing very precisely. So what do you guys think the next follow-up would be for behind a4? Yeah, I'll go on someone else this time, but yes, very good. All right, let's see. I think Owen, you meant a5. Yeah. Okay, I think most, yeah. Yeah, a5 is very important. But after b8, probably rook a4, because if rook b5, I think this might be trouble for us. King g4 and king takes f4. This might be kind of troubling. So rook a4 is better, because if rook c5, then you can just wait, right? And then black has no progress. So black played a better try. Black played the move rook b7. You kind of have to take this now. Rook b3 check. Now another important moment, king f2 or king g2. This should be relatively straightforward, but still. Yeah, Kelsey. Yeah, very good. Yeah, of course, king f2, because if king g2, king g4, rook b2 check will happen, and our king is going to be in the back rank, right? We definitely don't want that. So king f2, king g4. All right, now again, very important. Like, you're still not out of the woods here, right? Because it's still very dangerous for white. So again, white found the only sequence of moves here to still be able to be in the drawing range. So what should white do here? Full credit only if you see the whole thing. So this is not a one move solution here. You have to make sure you see the whole thing. So no credit if you just see the one move. You have to see the whole relevant variation. Yeah, rook a7, king f4 would be good for black. Yes, that's correct. But yeah, this is a trick. This is a little bit tricky. So Arian, you gave one line, but there's also another line black could try that you have to consider. But yeah, your first move is correct. Okay, so yeah, looks like, yeah, Eric, yeah, you also got it, and looks like Austin got it. Yeah, so rook a6 is the right idea. Now, as Arian mentioned, after king f4, rook e6, this is going to be leading to a drawn position, because you have these counterplay with these 2 pawns, and yeah, there's like a lot of f and h possibilities. So yeah, this is going to be equal. Now black tried rook b6, but after rook b6, only now do you go rook a4. And the point is, now you cannot take on f4 because of c5, right? So your harmony has been disturbed, and white is now sort of out of the woods. Now white has legitimate counterplay. Now, what happened here, interestingly, is that first of all, Alice is defending heroically, right? And Irina is probably thinking, well, she's obviously playing for a win, right? She still has more time left. So she's probably thinking, well, I have to continue pushing for a win. Even though at this point, it becomes clear that now with white having this passed pawn, it could get a little bit dangerous, right? So I think either black should, settle for a draw, rook b3, rook a6, or, Arena could try this king f4 option, which is like way more risk-free, right? Instead, what Arena did is playing a little bit with fire. She took check, went here, and king takes f4. But now after c5, c6, suddenly you can see that pawn on c5 is becoming a real player, becoming very dangerous. And already here, Arena is on the verge of like real danger. This is still equal, but already it's like Arena is the one who has to be more careful rather than Alice. What if king takes f4? Well, king takes f4, you go c5, right? So you can't do that. And that was the whole point. Yeah, so c5, rook b7, rook a6, rook here, rook d6, a5, c6, a4, rook d7, rook e8, rook a7, rook c8, c5. Yeah, c7. And now here, a soft little challenge for you guys. How should black make a draw here? At this point, black has only one way to draw. So this has already got to that dangerous moment where already only one move draws, which it's definitely not what black wanted, right? So definitely it's a sign that black kind of started overpressing and starting to play with fire. All right, interesting line. So we'll go over that a little bit later. Yeah, this was a tough one, so give you guys a few minutes here. Yeah, interesting observation, Austin. Yes. All right, looks like Samuel Wu was able to get it. So let's see where's Samuel Wu. Find Samuel. All right, Samuel, go ahead, share with us.
At first I thought I had to sack my A pawn for the C pawn. So I first analyzed A3, but after king C5, king takes E5, king B6,
Well,
king to D.
technically you should go king c6.
Oh
Not
yes, king C6.
because here you can maybe go, but okay, yeah,
Yeah.
it might be the same thing. Yeah, king c6. Yeah.
But then I analyzed king to b6, king to d6, and then white could just take the pawn because if I took on c7, rook to d3 was winning. So I thought it had to be h5, wasting a tempo, so that when he takes that pawn on a3, I hear king c5, king takes e5, king b6, king d6, and after takes, I
I could take on c7 because if he goes rook to d4 check, I have king e5 now.
Yeah, very interesting. Very nice calculation. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you could go king c6, but even then, right? I think the rook on a3 is somehow better placed, and it seems like when in these similar variations, it seems like black could like hold the draw here, or maybe even more than that, right? So it's pretty clear that like the white rook will be better placed on a3. And if you don't play rook takes king c5, then white pushes the h pawn, then that gives black other opportunities such as king g3. So h5 is the best move here. Again, not very counterintuitive. Irina played a3, and she was thinking for some time. She couldn't figure it out, so she played a3. And now in this position, so white played king c5, of course. Now king b6 maybe also works, but king c6 is like more logical, I think, still. f4, rook takes a3. Now this is useful. You get rid of the pawn and you stop the f pawn. King f5. And here, Alice, in this position, should just go king b7, the most natural move. And this is winning. And the more important thing is it's really kind of risk-free because, okay, black can do two things, right? He can go rook g8. And first of all, he can take. And then like what? He can play e5. But the king is so close, right? There's a lot of safety net, right? Like white shouldn't really ever lose this, because the king is gonna stop the pawns, right? But even if you didn't see that, there's like this plan, and this, right? And then rook f4. So the point is, it's very hard to imagine white losing this, right? Like there's always like a pretty nice safety net here, right? With the king being close. And if you go rook here, also you can go rook a8 here, king there, and now the rook is behind. And again, like worst comes to worst, maybe somehow black will draw, but not likely, right? So in reality, when you look at it more objectively, you realize like you're playing with house money here. It might be winning, it might not be. It might be hard to be for sure that you're winning, but you're definitely not losing, right? So there's no good reason not to play king b7 here. However, Alice played rook a5. Now, this move is a mistake because it blows the win. Now, why do you think someone of this caliber, like who played such brilliant moves early on in this endgame, would then make a mistake here, like this close to getting that win? Who can explain like what could be some of the reasons for this kind of mistake? This is also very interesting to learn from, because I was following this match very closely. Exactly. Very good, Austin. She's still in the drawing mentality, right? And this can very easily happen, right? You're sitting there suffering the whole game from the opening, and then the whole end game, like you're under this huge pressure, like you're like 1 minute against 30 minutes, right? You have a very unpleasant end game, and you're battling, you're sitting and battling, like surviving, right? You start thinking like draw is the dream case result. Like you stop thinking about the possibility that you can possibly win the game, right? It's just like it just doesn't cross your mind. But in reality, what Alice should have realized is like her pawn's on c7. Like this is a 3-result game now. Like Irina could overpress, right? So it's possible to win this game. It is, right? It's important to be able to make that adjustment mid-game. It's one of the hardest things to do in chess, right? But this is like a very important lesson for all of us, right? To be able to learn to make this adjustment. The point of rook a5 is just to go king d6 and try to like get rid of both pawns and make sure you get a draw, right? That's why she played rook a5. And then Irina here made a mistake. She should have gone here, still draws, but after this move, she's losing again after king d7. I'm not going to go through these variations, no point. You guys could look at it on your own if you want. But then Alice again played king d6. Still that drawing mentality kicks in. And then this is where Irina made this move f3 in the last second. Maybe half a second or something, even less away from flagging, but okay, it is what it is. And then after rook e5, eventually this became a draw. Now, then we move on to the tiebreak. And the tiebreak had a little bit of a different dynamic, because in the tiebreak, in the first game not this game, this game. In the first game that they played in the tiebreak, this was the first game in the tiebreak, so it's not a must win for anybody. And so So in this game, what happened was Alice was like pressing most of the game. Not most, but like the last like 10, 15 moves. And she definitely wanted to win the game. She was white. She had more time, which was very important. At some point, it was like something like 5 minutes versus 1. And, she's definitely creating some threats. But, Arena's defending well. And now she created this counterplay with knight d3. Now, in this position, what do you guys think white should do here? Yeah, make sure you guys look at opponent's ideas more closely. Guys, some of you guys gave me one move, but there is like, you're overlooking opponent's possibilities there, potentially. So two of you, yeah, so a couple of you, yeah, gave me bishop e3, but bishop e3 does very rook e2, a very nasty move. The bishop is chased away, and then, yeah, g3, some of you also gave me, but g3, there's 91 you have to consider. This is still playable, but it gets a bit worse. It gets a bit tricky. Like you can go f4, knight f3, if rook a6, then knight f3. There's a mate threat. It is a little bit risky. g3 is not losing, but it's slightly risky. Rook a6 is what white played, knight f4. It's still playable, but we'll get to that move a bit later. In my opinion, it's already a step in the wrong direction. The first point is we have to understand what we're playing for. And the first thing you have to realize that we're not playing for a win anymore. At this point, black created so much counterplay that white has to switch gears and go for playing for a win to actually making sure she doesn't lose, right? Because in this position, well, rook c7, knight f4. Rook c7 does not help us, knight f4. And we get checked and we lose. Right, so you can't play rook c7. So you guys look at bishop e3 and then g3 to try to stop knight f4, but there's a better way to meet that threat, right? There is a bet. Yes, very good, Angela. Yes, king g3, and if knight f4 or knight e1, we go there. And now, okay, black could repeat, of course, but okay, that's a draw. That's fine. What to do. Black defended well, created good counterplay. Maybe white misplayed it a bit. Okay, it is what it is. It's a draw. But yeah, for Alice, unfortunately, she played rook takes a6, and after this, king there, knight takes. You could still make the draw here by going here and then bishop f2. Still not so bad, but Alice here played this one, and here she probably realized that king g3, what was she planned? There's some mating net problems. And here Alice played king g1, knight takes f3, king f1, lost all her pawns. Now it's true you do regain that knight, but the problem for white is that you cannot gain the rook, right? You can only gain the knight, and the end game ended up being losing, and black won the game. So this was a case where it was the opposite, right? Where Alice was like nominally playing for a win, but then was not able to make that adjustment into pulling the brakes and making the draw. Just curious, is 4 pawns plus knight versus rook plus 4 pawns plus knight versus rook plus bishop a draw? 4 pawns plus knight. Oh, I see. Versus rook and okay. So basically, you're down a rook. I don't know. It's hard to say. I would be thinking that it's hard to say. I don't know. Maybe something you can analyze on your own. I'm guessing it's closest to a draw, but if anything, I would guess it's probably closer to rook and bishop being better. But it depends on where the pawns are. Like if they're still not far advanced, then I would say probably draw, but closer to white being better. All right, so those are like some of the main examples I want to show you, but since we still have time remain, I do have a couple of other examples that I think are quite interesting in the end games. This is a game from James Nguyen against Vishnu Vanapali from round 2 of that same Charlotte. And in this position, what should white do? How should white continue here? So we have, okay, so at this point, I see rook g7, I see rook f6, and I see bishop c3. Bishop c3, I think maybe I can go rook d1, right? So I guess the question is, do we go rook f6 or rook g7? Yeah, so some of you are giving me rook g7, some of you are giving me rook f6. Yeah, so that's what it comes down to. Which of these is correct? There's like a big difference between these two moves. But whoever gives me the best explanation rather than just one move, I'll call on. I think Eric got it right, but I already called on Eric, so I'll try to ask someone who I haven't called on yet. The black king gets to b7, rook f6, king takes bishop c3, and I'm not so sure about that. I don't think so. Let's see. Well, I mean, yeah, you kind of do, but okay, who cares? So you win everything, right? You win the whole house, right? Yes. Yes, exactly. The king is way further. Exactly. Yeah, I think Austin, you got this. Yes. Yeah. So rook f6 is the move, because now if this, you're winning pretty easily, this obstacle bishop, because you kind of can't stop the pawn, right? As long as you trade the rooks, you cannot stop the pawn. But now the problems of black goes somewhere like h5 or h7. It's a pretty easy win because you can just take here, go a6, right? And then the black king is just cut off, right? And or I think I forget what the winning move is, like the easiest, but yeah, rook b6 might be the easiest. And rook b5. Yeah, so that's sort of the idea, right? You can also go bishop c3, like there are many lines. But rook g7 was played in the game, and after king f5, the difference is the black king. Like king activity is really important in these kind of end games. And suddenly it's not so easy because, okay, here you can still go back to that position, like, but James played this one, and this is already not so clear because king e4, king d3 comes. And unlike in the line with the king on gh5, Here the black king is super active, and that happens in endgame sometimes, right? You can be up lots of pawns, but because of the king activity, you can sometimes save the game. And this is what James underestimated. It turns out that this is just because of the king 2 being too active, white had nothing better than a draw. And had you cut off the king on h5, you would have been able to win the game. Now, Austin, regarding your move bishop c3, let's take a look quickly. I didn't analyze that actually. Yeah, I guess that also wins. Rook d1, and then the key move is rook f6. Yeah, so the key is you have to, again, it's the same idea. You have to cut off his king, right? So yeah, you can definitely start with bishop c3, but rook g7, as you could see, it's inaccurate, right? I mean, you could go. It doesn't spoil it as long as you see to admit your mistake and then go rook f7, which white didn't. But this is already like spoiling the win. One more example I'll show you. Actually, maybe two more because I really like those. So Paraguay against Alice, from like a norm tournament. So Alice was up a pawn, doing amazing. What's the easiest way to convert this position? This is, again, also very important, right? Because this is also a very instructive lesson. Okay, I guess this will be the last one, since you guys are still thinking on it. So far, we got two answers that are the same as what Alice played, but not the correct idea. I'll explain in a second. All right, looks like I got some answers. Okay. Yeah, Austin, absolutely. Yeah, b5, shutting down the counterplay, bring the king in the game, then bring the rook to a6, c pawn on c6, and okay, little by little, it should be win. The most important thing in a position like that, you have to make sure you shut down their counterplay, right? Rook e5 is also interesting. Let me just see what this rook e5 is. Rook e5 is not as good, though, because I can go here and bishop c7. Again, it gives counterplay. Right? We don't want to do that. Because rook e2, can I even go b5? No, I can also take on d5. No, yeah, you definitely don't want to play like that, right? You can even lose this, potentially. Yeah, so no, just b5, c6, shut him down. White has no counterplay, and then you win the game. Black played c5, very tempting, but having this massive pawns. But after this move, attacking h4, suddenly, as you could see, this pawn on a4 is just super annoying to deal with, right? And black also has to take care of all these other pawns, and it's not so simple anymore. So still winning for black, but not as easily. And Alice ended up spoiling this even further, to the extent that she almost even lost this game. Like at some point, she hung this pawn and almost even lost this game. Like at some point, white was actually like winning, like around here. Like rook g4 was actually briefly even winning. But you know, yeah, white missed it, and okay, Alice held a draw, but like this should have been like a position of strength, completely winning, but like it was yeah, it almost became a disaster for her. So yeah, goes to show endgame technique super important, right? All these rules, you know, king activity, stopping counterplay when you're winning, but most importantly, these psychological lessons, not trying to force your way, whether you're completely winning or you're completely drawing, you know, don't try to worry about ending the game as soon as possible, right? It's like I always tell my students, don't try to win the game if you're playing a lower rated or if you're winning in 20 moves. Just make sure you win the game and secure it, and don't give your opponent chances, right? It's better to win in 50 moves a game when your opponent never, you know, had big chances, rather than win in 25 moves, but your opponent like was winning, you know, in that game, you know, at some point, right? Because if you have that approach against a stronger player, you might lose, right? So that's the point, right? It's about if, you know, it's not about how quickly you do it. It's about how, you know, how certain you will be to win that position, right? The consistency. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's class, and let me open the chat for everybody now. 1 second. Second, guys. I'll add okay. So you guys could, you know, talk to each other very quickly, and I'm gonna close Zoom in 1 minute. Yes, I'm playing Colonial Open. Let's see. How do you guys do at nationals? Oh, okay. Well, guess you guys.